This is Going Under, Anesthesia Answered with the good doc, Dr. Brian Schmutzler. I am Vahid Sadrzadeh, and we are brought to you by the Butterfly Network.
We are. All right, I'm going to let you in on something that's completely changed the way that I practice. I've been using butterfly probes for years. It's a portable ultrasound that plugs right into my compatible smartphone or tablet, and I can start scanning at the bedside in seconds. If you've used the older versions, or even if you're new to the handheld ultrasound game, let me tell you why this IQ3 is a game changer and really impressive. First off, having an ultrasound that literally fits in my pocket means I can move faster. Whether it's vascular access, procedural guidance, or just getting real-time insights from my patients. And the tech inside this tiny device is pretty incredible. Biplane imaging lets me see short and long axis simultaneously, huge for procedural guidance, and honestly a great tool for learners. The new needle out of plane preset even shifts the scan plane digitally so I can see the needle tip sooner, which makes a real difference when precision matters. And the image quality? Honestly, this IQ3 holds up against some of the high-end cart systems I've used. That's impressive for something this portable. If you're looking for a device that supports your practice, I can't recommend the Butterfly IQ3 enough. And right now, they're running a special offer. You can get $750 off the latest IQ3. Check it out at butterflynetwork.com. You know, I saw they're having their Innovator Forum right now that we were at last year.
Boca.
Is it back in
Boca? I don't know.
I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, they are. Is it right now?
Yeah. Where is the Butterfly Innovator Forum this year? Whoa. Nope, that's not it.
We'll get back to you on that.
Yes, we will. I'll look it up. I'll figure it out.
I'm excited about this podcast, and here's why. We're talking about mentors, leadership, faith, the whole nine, but really who has mentored you to this point in your life. And I think it's important for, a big chunk of your audience is students.
Yes, that's true.
And first-year residents or, those studying specialties, but younger medical audiences.
Looks like it's on a cruise ship this year.
Where?
I don't know. I can't tell. Yeah. Okay, sorry about that.
So it's really important, I think, in terms of, for this podcast, everybody has a different path.
Yeah.
Your path was different than student B over here.
Yep.
What was that path, and why was that mentor, 2 mentors, 3 mentors so important to getting you to where you are now?
Yeah, so some of this comes from I'm sort of moving into the phase of my life where I'm becoming a mentor, right? So I used to be the young guy, and then I was at an event, and I all of a sudden realized I was like the old guy, and everybody was younger than me. And so I think over the last probably 6 to 10 months, 12 months, I've realized that I need to be a mentor to people. And so that got me thinking about who were my mentors growing up, right? So I just wrote down all the kind of mentors that I had from the time I was a young kid to now, basically. So, and I think it's critically important for anybody, whether you're going into medicine or not, to have a mentor. Now, I also think it's pretty critically important that you have a mentor in your medical field as well. And I'm just remembering now that I didn't really have one for anesthesia, but that's okay. I have medical. Yeah. So, so I'll just go through these, and we can kind of chat about them, and then, we'll go from there and see where the conversation leads. So, I guess for me, my faith, Christianity is incredibly important. And so how did I come to that faith? I know we talked about this on other episodes, but, I started attending a Bible study with one of my friends when I was 10, 11 years old. And so John, my Bible study leader, is the first person I think of as one of the mentors. So he was an interesting guy, or is, I guess, an interesting guy. He's obviously still alive. I still keep in contact with him. But he had a full-time job, and a wife and kids and all kinds of stuff. But he poured a lot of time into us. There were, 7 or 8 of us in this Bible study. Poured a lot of time into us on a couple of times a week, and took us on trips and all kinds of stuff. Awesome guy. But really, I learned a lot about like who God was, and why I should be a faithful person, and learned about scripture and, all that sort of stuff. And I think he was key in kind of helping me come to Christ personally. And I don't know that I even really ever talked to him about this, but Yeah, so I mean, I spent a lot of time in that group with him, with our friends, and like I said, I still keep in contact with him to this very day. But he was a mentor in the sense of helping me come to Christ, but also having like a healthy family to look at, right? As opposed to my parents weren't probably the best example in terms of that sort of stuff, right? So he had a bunch of kids and like a healthy marriage and stuff. So that was cool, and that's kind of the first person who comes to mind when I think about a mentor. So yeah,
just the faith. I think the faith aspect is
that was huge.
If you're looking at buckets, right?
Right. Yeah.
And you have many different buckets that contributed to who you are today.
Yep.
And I always kind of look at these buckets like if the buckets aren't filled and not weighted towards each other, it's going to be unequal, right? I mean,
or sporadic. You're going to lean too far one way or the other.
And so the faith bucket at a young age is a huge bucket to fill because a lot of people don't fill that bucket till later.
Yeah, and it definitely formulated who I was and how I kind of proceeded into the world. Mm-hmm. So the second person that came to mind, and you'll love this name, Dr. Alan Schmutzler.
Hey,
yeah, so no relation.
Schmutzler.
Yeah, it was a
Schmutzler.
Yeah. So I thought back in like high school that I wanted to be a psychiatrist. Yeah. So
we've talked about that.
I didn't end up doing that. But so what was cool about him? He I can't even remember. Somehow randomly I got his number from somebody I knew from somewhere. Anyway, so I started just chatting with him, and he would let me come into his office, listen to while he talked to the patients, and then he'd explain to me afterwards, like, this is the diagnostic criteria I used, and the medicines I used and why, and all that sort of stuff. It was really cool to just see, because I didn't have physicians in my family. My dad's brother was I think he's retired, was an optometrist, but that's about the closest I came to anything medical. So he let me spend a ton of time with him. I did a whole project when I was a senior. He had us over to his house. Like he was super, super nice guy, and just kind of let me do a lot of things that I probably wouldn't have had the opportunity to do otherwise. And so, and then, my favorite quote from him was, it's nearly impossible to study the thing that you're trying to study the thing you're trying to study with that thing. Meaning the mind, right? So like, how do you study the mind using the mind? It's like a paradox, right? So that's kind of what he used to talk about. It's like, we don't understand what's going on, but how could we? How could we be evaluating or studying the mind when we're having to use the mind to study the mind?
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm trying to wrap my brain around that quote itself.
When it's 16, 17, 18 years old, I didn't understand what that meant. But the older I get, obviously, the more I kind of like that. He blows my mind even more, right? Like, I'm using the finite mind to try to study the mind. And then, if you even take that back to faith, right? I'm using my finite mind to try to understand an infinite God. And so how do you wrap your head around that? It's basically impossible, right? So
at a young age, you kind of had these big overarching mentors themes in your life.
Yeah, definitely.
I want to know when you kind of decided, and when was that? When did you decide to go to medical school?
I had always kind of said I wanted to be a doctor. I probably started preparing for it when I was in late middle school, early high school. Like, I knew I wanted to study science and to help people. And so it's cliche, right? That's what everybody writes on their med school application. But yeah, I knew it from way before. Now, what I did start to do towards the end of high school and all through college was research as well. Realized that I really like the research aspect of things too, which is why I did a combined MD PhD degree. But
at this point, your faith is already formed.
I mean, your faith is never fully formed, right? I'm still forming my faith at this point. But yeah, I had at least a rudimentary, teenage knowledge of what faith was. I mean, I had given my life to Jesus for sure, right? So that wasn't a question, but I certainly was not mature in my faith after 4 or 5 years. Right?
It's been what, 30 years since that happened?
Yeah, almost. Okay. Almost.
So not talking now specifically, but talking then.
Yeah.
how did you, as a young person, how did you balance the faith aspect of your life with the science medical aspect of what they were teaching you?
Yeah, I mean, so I think intelligent design is the answer to that question, right? So if you look, the more you learn about science, the more you learn about medicine, the more you learn about the human body, the more likely it is, and the more obvious to me that it is that a knowledgeable, intelligent creator created us. There's no way, in my opinion, that this was all random. It just couldn't have been. We couldn't have been randomly put on Earth. We couldn't have been randomly put on the only planet that we would actually survive in. And then you can even go back, and if you want to argue with me, fine. You're not going to change my mind. But if you want to make that argument that, okay, well, it's all, random and Big Bang and whatever. Okay, but then who created the molecules to create the Big Bang that you speak of, right? At some point you get back to, there has to be a creator. You can't create something out of nothing. So there had to be something to create something.
So you have those two buckets.
Yeah.
You have the faith bucket, and you have kind of the
medicine career bucket.
Bucket.
Yeah.
Tell me about the next bucket.
Yeah. So I would say
the mentor.
Yeah. So I would say, and I'm skipping ahead a little bit here because there's other kind of things in between. But the next thing that really came to my mind is my father-in-law, my wife's dad. In terms of a man, now their marriage in general, they've been married 50 years or something like that. They've got an amazing marriage. They started churches together, and I've in a lot of conversations I've been having lately, I've been saying this, so this may sound rehearsed, but it's just something I've been talking about a lot lately because of some conversations I've been in. He is a big time mentor to me, and has been really since I met my wife. Again, I go back to, I didn't have biblical manhood really displayed for me when I was a kid, and so my father-in-law, he is that. And on top of that, he's like a man's man, right? So he's the person who really got me into like hunting. Not that I hunt a lot now, but I did some hunting. I hunted bear. He got me into like, weapons, like having a gun, shooting a gun. I never shot a gun before I spent time with him. But mostly like, I thank him for the way that he raised my wife to expect like what he was, right? So, and that, that moves forward even me, right? And that I want to be more like him because of the way that like she is, and I'd like to raise my kids in the same way that my kids are obviously boys and not girls, so there's some differences there, but I'd like to raise my kids the same way that he raised her. So like we kind of were talking about some themes, and I haven't stuck to the ideas here, the themes or whatever, but just the whole thing of him, just the way that he carries himself. He's a very quiet guy, but like when he says something, it's meaningful. And so he's been a mentor for me in like being a husband, being a father, like family life stuff. And I've known him now for 22 years, like half my life. So
that leads me to my next question. I don't think you and I have ever talked about this before.
What's that?
So you're a very good father. I try. Our kids, listen, our kids have,
they hang out
through the
course,
years. They've hung out together, and, my 12-year-old is like a bigger brother.
Like they have a great time together. We travel together. Like that's no secret. Yeah.
But where did you learn the patience?
Oh, yeah.
Where did you learn those finite skills, right? Of like, because, in terms of your dad, right? It sounds like your father-in-law was a big part of
100%. Yeah,
you kind of forming into this man, right? And this father, but taking the experiences of your own father, taking the experiences of your father-in-law, how have you molded those into you being a father?
And so I don't want to brag on my father too much. Rest in peace, obviously. He always made it clear that he cared about me, and he came to my events, right? That was a big thing because his dad didn't do that for him. He was always at every game I ever had, at every school play I ever did, all that sort of stuff. So for me, that was a big part of it. And I never, he did verbalize like that he cared about me and he was proud of me and all that sort of stuff. So those things I definitely took from my dad. A lot of other things I did not. And so we won't get, again, I'm not going to defame him on the podcast, but those things for sure. Now, patience, I think if you asked my kids and Alicia if I was patient with them, I think they would probably give me a score of like a 6 on the 6 out of 10 patience. If I would have had kids 10 years earlier, I'm probably more like a 2. Like my patience has gotten, I think, better over time. But I mean, a lot of it for me is reading biblically based books about fatherhood and then just praying about it, right? Because I've never had a 10-year-old before, so I don't know what to do with a 10-year-old, right? I didn't know how to change a diaper or how to interact with a 1-year-old or a 2-year-old or a 5-year-old. So, for me, I'm a big like research person. So trying to find good parenting books and websites and stuff that are biblically based, I think is a lot of where things came from. But in terms of like how to treat a child and how to be like an example as a godly, biblically based father, that's my father-in-law. So
I've always wanted to know this.
Yeah.
And I actually just talked to our trainer about this last week. And I've said this a couple times actually over the last couple of weeks, because I find myself just like telling people your bio, just like, hey, here's Brian, and
that's a little weird, but that's okay.
People ask me about you, but I think the biggest thing that I see, and the question I have for you is this, because. This was, it goes back to the motor, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think you can have all of these buckets without this one word.
What's that?
And that's the why.
Okay.
What is your why? Like what is, when you strip everything out, and this is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
You're up at 3 a.m.
Yeah, most mornings, yeah.
You're researching like nobody else has. Your motor is going all the time. Some people just don't have the ability to do that.
Yeah.
Some people just don't have that focus. They don't have the whatever. But I call that the why, right?
Yeah.
I finished a triathlon. There had to be a why to finish the Ironman triathlon.
Right,
you just don't go out and do an Ironman triathlon because of the training involved, because of the time involved.
100%. So what's my why?
Yeah, you spent all of these thousands of hours training and what's your why?
So I think it's changed over time. I think my initial why was fear of failure. And I think a lot of men probably are motivated by fear of failure. I think that has morphed over time as I become more mature, not only in my faith, but just more mature as a person of I need to leave a legacy and to honor God in what I do. So that's my why now, right? So I think, I probably err on the side, and most men do, right? So you either err on the side of doing too much or being lazy and doing too little, right? I probably push it 2/3 of the way too far by doing too much, right? So would my body probably appreciate some more sleep? Yeah. Should I maybe work a little less and not worry as much about it? Yeah. But I think at this point, I'm trying to leave that legacy for my family, but also as a Christian man. And so people should see me and think like, yeah, that guy works hard all the time. What's his motivation? And then I can share this. My motivation is just that, what I just talked about. So I guess that's where my motor comes from. I also, and this is probably pathologic more so than endearing, but my brain just doesn't stop. So like from the second I wake up to the second I go to bed, I'm always thinking of like, what's the next thing? How do I improve something? How do I make this or that better? What do I need to do to make sure that legacy endures?
Trust me, I get those texts at 3 o'clock in the morning, I know.
Yeah. Well, less so now because you went away from the dumb Android and went back to Apple so that I can send later. So
that's right.
Yeah.
That's wow.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I don't mind either platform.
Yeah. Clearly,
it's not about my platform choices.
The rest of us do. The rest of us mind.
What about? We're gonna get into the next
Yeah.
bucket and the next mentor.
Uh-huh.
But how do you see that playing out with the boys? Like, because everybody's different, right?
Yeah.
Their why might be different.
Yeah.
Even though they might not have a why right now.
I think Robbie, my older son, is a lot more like me in the sense that, or is more like me than my younger son.
I can tell he loves to research.
He's
a researcher.
He is very cerebral. We were just talking about this today. And so I think he has the same motivations. Maybe, so part of this got kind of instilled in me by my dad of like, you don't get B's, you don't fail, right? So some of this is like, my expectations for you are
A, B, and C, right?
You
Not
are
A, B, and
you
C,
are
but
smart.
yeah.
Yeah, you are smart. You don't fail, right? So I probably instill that in him, and he takes it to heart. And it's like, I don't want to disappoint Dad, which is the exact same way I was. I think my younger son is much more motivated by relationship and affirmation. And so for him, it's less about like, oh, I don't want to disappoint Dad. These are the things I have to do. It's more like, how will this particular thing affect my relationship with my dad, right? And so like if cleaning out, if taking out the trash, right? If all that's going to result in for him is me saying, I'm upset that you didn't do that and I'm going to have to take it out myself, that doesn't really fundamentally change our relationship. If it's going to like really hurt or especially with Alicia, they're much more sensitive to Alicia's kind of feelings than mine, which is good. That's the way it should be, right? They should be very sensitive to their mom's needs. That if she's really upset about something, if it really hurts her feelings, then he's very much on that, right? So I think he responds much more to relational things than Robbie, which is more like a fear of failure, disappointment thing, right? So I think the two of them are very, very different, which I'm an only child, so I wouldn't I wouldn't have known all this to begin with. But
let's move to the next bucket.
Right.
This is all so interesting to me to kind of dive into.
It's a little deeper than I thought it was going to get. I got a little choked up talking about my father-in-law, so that was a little interesting. But anyway,
that's what we're here for, baby. That's come on,
So now the work bucket.
Because that comes later, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think so. Dr. Cynthia Hinchin was my like investigator. She was basically my boss when I was doing research, and so she's great. I mean, she did an awesome job doing research. I don't think she actually does research anymore. She's a neurologist as well, so I think she went in full-time neurology practice, which is fine. But she gave me like a passion for research and a passion for like reading, scientific literature, thinking about it, and then she really taught me how to think scientifically.
Critically, scientifically.
Scientific, like how do I read a paper, like an article, right? People talk about all the time, like I did my research, I read an article. Well, she taught me how to actually read an article and look for the things that are in there that maybe make the article not mean what they say it means in the conclusion, right? That's a lot of what happens in science is people, they show you all their data and they show you all their results, and then their conclusion is a huge jump from what the results actually show. So she taught me all that kind of stuff. She also taught me the discipline of you need to get things done on a timeline, because if you don't, you'll never go back to medical school, and then you'll be 75 by the time you finish medical school and go to residency and actually have a real job. So she was great in that regard, and she was really patient with me. I mean, I think I was probably hard. I still probably am hard to manage because I don't do well with authority, like with a boss basically telling me what to do. And so she gave me the right amount of freedom, but also the right amount of structure, which is amazing, because she didn't really have kids of her own, from what I recall, and so having that like innate ability to know how to basically, it wasn't like parenting, like I wasn't her kid, but how to sort of guide me in a parental way while I was in the lab was outstanding. So I owe a lot of my sort of ability to have like success in the workplace to the habits she instilled in me.
As you move to this next stage in your life, what is I guess the biggest factor for you? Maybe factor is not the right word, but what is most important to you in mentorship? And, what bucket or what group or what mentor are you looking at next as you're kind of as you phases of life?
That's
right?
interesting. I mean, so for me, I think presence is one. Like the ability to talk to that person is important in mentorship for me right now. I think integrity and accountability, right, and going both ways, right. So I think those mentors I've talked about so far, and even the next mentor I talk about, he owns the company, the National Anesthesia Management company that I work for. Those are kind of more people who I'm accountable to them, but they're not really accountable to me. I think I'm moving into the phase of my life where I want mutual accountability, and so I think the last person we'll talk about, and then even going forward in other mentors that I look for, is the it's not unilateral, it's bidirectional accountability and integrity. And so, yeah, that's maybe what I'm looking for now in a mentor, and how I want to be as a mentor.
Who is that last?
Well, so let's go the next one first. I've got two more.
Okay.
So I've got, again, and he does a great job with accountability for sure. So don't get me wrong, but he's not really, so Kurt Zumwalt, he's the CEO of CCI Anesthesia. He's not, I mean, I guess he is in a sort of, theoretical sense accountable to me because he runs the company, but he so he's been a mentor to me for a long time, since I've been with the company, 6, 7 years, 8 years, whatever it is now. And so he's been a mentor to me in a couple of ways. He's shown me how to do business in the right way, that you don't have to oversell or get on that line of not telling the truth. You just be honest, and you do the right things for the right reasons, even though sometimes that may hurt you in a business perspective. And so that he definitely taught me that. He also taught me forgiveness. He and I had a falling out a couple of years into our relationship on some business terms. He was right. I'll admit it. He was right for the most part in that situation. And so we sort of went our separate ways for about a couple of weeks. And then he called me and said, "Hey, listen, I'm going to give you another chance." And so I respect him for that forever, right? And now, he's one of my mentors. I'm executive leadership within the company, right? It worked out the way that we all hoped it would. But yeah, I think that mentorship is huge, in the accountability, in the showing me how to run business, and showing me, forgiveness, I guess.
Yeah. And who's the final one?
Yeah, so the last one is my pastor, Lucas Miles, Influence Church, 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock Sunday mornings, Granger, Indiana. Shameless plug.
No shame in about it.
So he sat on this podcast probably about a year ago, wasn't it? Maybe a little less than a year ago.
I'm hoping we can get him on again.
I'm hoping we get him on again too. Yeah, he's busy doing a lot of other things, but he sat on here, and what I said to him a year ago, I said it privately and publicly on the podcast, is that I am secure in my faith, but not bold in my faith, right? And what he said to me is, give me a year and I'll change that. And I think we kind of laughed and whatever. And I would say, I mean, you're an outsider perspective. Would you say that's true?
100%.
Okay.
Well, I'm not really an outsider.
Well, not an outsider, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, but I'm not
you're
you.
Not in my head.
No,
right?
I'm not you. I'm not you.
So from your perspective, have I become more bold in my faith?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So to me, he's a mentor in that way. I mean, he's an awesome pastor. He, the sermons he gives are awesome. He's a friend, right? So I text him and I see him outside of church, not just as that's my pastor, but he also, he does the hard things he has to do no matter what the consequences. And it's always Jesus based, but it's also like, he'll call somebody out if he has to call him out, even though it may mean something, right? He put up a big sign in front of the church that probably made a lot of people mad, but he did it because it was the right thing to do. And so I think in terms of how to be bold in my faith, aside from all the other things, I think he's an awesome guy. He's a good friend, right? So don't get, Lucas, if you're listening, don't get me wrong. This is not the only reason I see you as a mentor, but I think a big reason I see you as a mentor is because you've helped move me into boldness in my faith, like it not just at church, not just at home, but everywhere I go. So that's
awesome.
That's the last one.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think there's so much. I just think there's so much we can learn.
Yeah.
Right. From each other.
Yep.
By just sitting and listening.
Yeah.
And I think that's the benefit of doing a podcast.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You and I went into this whole thing.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago.
Yep.
And I'm always gun ho for a podcast,
Yeah.
but always for the right reasons.
Right. Right.
Not everybody should have a podcast.
I think it's taught me how. I mean, you're a natural at this because you're in media. It's taught me how to speak in this format and even in front of people, right? So I'm appreciative for that. But I mean, and the reason, so how the sausage is made. The reason we started this podcast is because my social media is very much like kind of lighthearted, and fun,
sure.
And I'm a self-deprecating anesthesiologist, and I felt like I didn't have a platform to share big ideas, right? And so that's why we started the podcast. So go ahead.
And I'm glad we did.
Yeah,
because I think in terms of for the people out there who follow you, that's where I was going with this. Is it's invaluable to sit and listen.
Yeah.
How many times during a day do we just sit and listen?
Not enough.
Not enough.
Yeah.
Can we separate from our phone and separate from the external?
Unless you're listening to the podcast on your phone, in which case don't separate from your phone.
100%. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But how many times do we get a chance to breathe, right? And just kind of separate from those external pressures and just listen. And I think if you take 35 minutes to listen to this podcast, you will learn those things, because I think that's where that's the intention, is to learn from the experiences.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Right? We're not just saying controversial. This is not one of those podcasts where we just say controversial things.
Just for fun.
Just say controversial things and stir up audience reactions, right? I mean, that's just not the point.
We probably have
this.
more followers if we did that.
But that's not the point, right?
Yeah,
that's not who we are, I don't think.
No, yeah.
And so I think I appreciate you opening up about those things, because I think, just sitting here listening to you talk about those things opens my eyes to a few ideas, right? Yeah. And a few of those, how can you take faith and medicine, and how can you take mentorship and all of those things and kind of formulate it into one thing. And you're not done.
No,
you're only 40 years old, right? I mean,
I'll be 44 pretty soon. But
you're welcome.
I mean, I think for me, it's just an introspective thing of like and it all started because I realized at a couple of events that I went to that I'm now the mentor, and so that's exciting.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's very daunting. Like how can I be as good a mentor to other people as these people were to me? So
one more thing I'm going to say.
Yeah.
And I want to speak about this just really quickly. There is a very dear friend of mine who you know. And a good friend of mine, but a mentor, lifelong mentor of his that he's known for many, many years, who is diagnosed with cancer. He has, really, it's not a great outlook, cancer diagnosis, and probably doesn't have much longer. And I said to him I said to my friend a couple months ago, I said, you need to ask this person as much as you can in the short amount of time you have, because you never know how much time you have left.
Yep.
And you're never going to forget that. You're never going to forget those conversations. And you would be remiss if you did not have those conversations. So I think that's another reason to talk about some of these things.
Yeah.
Because if you're never talking about them, you
don't learn from them.
You don't learn from them.
Yeah.
And so, if you're out there listening, talk to those mentors.
Of course, yeah.
Reach out to those people.
Yep.
Because we only...
Even 20, 30 years later.
Seriously. I mean, do it, because you never know when you're going to get another chance to speak to those people and get that knowledge.
It's true. It's 100% true.
If they... I'll say this. If they're talking to you in a mentorship role and they're giving you the time and the knowledge, guess what? They probably feel the same about you that you do about them.
100%. Yeah, I would agree. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
All right.
So that was a very that was not where I was expecting that episode to go. But I'm glad we did it.
100% glad we did it. All right, that's Dr. Brian Schmutzler. And if you could ask him a question, ask him a question. If you always wanted to ask him, reach out to him.
Yep. Yeah. Reach out on socials.
Yeah.
Reach out, here at the podcast. So, we're happy to answer them.
We are brought to you by the Butterfly Network. This is Going Under Anesthesia Answered with Dr. Brian Schmutzler. I'm Vahid, and we'll see you
in the next one.
In the next one.